Welcome to Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. We are about 10 days away from the start of the season. So we got to start coming up with a plan here. We've got a few things going for us, and I pulled the cards the third time. So I've got a little bit more information to pass along, and it's all going to factor into what we do that first week. And I think it's going to be more of a cautious approach to the season. I'm pretty much of more of a careful type of a hunter. In this situation, probably makes a lot of sense. So let's go over what we've got for targets to hunt. I think we're going to go after that non-typical looking buck and that great big fat bellied one. Those are the two that we're really going to pick out to go after early. The reason is they're far enough away from the home range, or at least last year's range of that buck that we're calling the Jordan buck, so that we're not going to be in there messing around, leaving a bunch of scent, trying to hunt other deer.
And just in general, it's kind of on the edge of the farm versus being right in the middle of it too. So anything else that could be in there, you don't have to risk digging through and disturbing them the first 2 weeks of the season.
That's right. We can come in from the complete northwest corner outside of any place where that deer could be living. My thought is that the Jordan buck is probably living out in that 70-acre standing cornfield. I think he's around. I don't think he's completely left, and I know he's not dead. So if we can just make a little hole for him, someplace that he can move into, hopefully as it gets closer into the fall, maybe when the corn gets picked, maybe he'll show up then. But he's around somewhere. We just don't want to hunt his area, or at least where he lived last year, right now. And these are two good targets. I mean, that old fat one, he's been moving in daylight quite a bit. I mean, I think he's an old deer. So in my experience, it seems like the older they get, the more daylight active they get past age 5. Like 6+-year-old bucks, for whatever reason, they tend to be easier to kill sometimes than the younger ones. So I think he'd be a really fun one to get. And we're gonna put a plan together for him, and probably not lay that out on this episode. We've got another 10 days or so. So we'll come back and with the benefit of maybe one more card pull, and then we'll put our final plan together for how we're going to go after that deer. The more non-typical looking deer, he's showing up in daylight a tiny little bit now, which isn't good because they tend to become more and more nocturnal as you get closer to October. So my guess is that he's going to be a tough one, but maybe not, who knows. We got a general idea where both of them live now, so we can spend a little time there. There's enough does in that area, and we do need to shoot some does. So I think overall it's a good starting point, and we'll just let time work for us, and hopefully that Jordan buck will move back into where he lived last year, and we can start putting more of a plan together for him. What are your thoughts? I mean, it was kind of cool also, not to jump too far ahead, but there was another really nice 3-year-old on the last card pull. So
is that 3?
3 that I think are really genetically, high quality deer.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see like the beginning of what can be really good, down the line. And we've talked about it since the beginning. I remember one viewer early on commented, he said it takes 5 years. And I thought, oh man, I don't want that. But that was 3 years ago, and now we're 2 years out, and we're still looking at it saying, well,
if you think about it too, to go from, I've said this before, but almost entirely a cattle-focused farm with no special modifications or improvements for the deer to turn it into kind of a deer-focused farm, and with all the benefits and like the increased higher quality nutrition and everything. I mean, these would be the first fawns that would have benefited from that, assuming they were born and lived here. So it does make sense.
Yeah, and I do think too that it was probably getting hunted harder than what I thought when I bought it. So there just weren't very many older age class deer here back then. Not only were there not very many deer, but the ones that were here were really young. So it's kind of a blank slate starting point. So anyway, the point is there are some bucks here that we can hunt, which is nice, but we're probably a couple years away from it being, what you'd call, top notch. And I mentioned in the last episode I might look for a few places to go outside of our farm. Just depends on what shows up on the cameras as we go forward. If we're not getting much for daylight activity, more mature deer showing up or whatever, I might start looking for other places just to spend some time and keep the action going. Because it can be really discouraging and frustrating to hunt bucks that aren't moving in daylight. So that's the risk that we have, I guess, of not branching out a little bit. So your thoughts, if you have any on the big plan?
I don't think I have any yet.
I think there'll be fun spots to hunt. We haven't hunted over in that part of the farm. I mean, you hunted that one you called Old Unreliable.
Yeah, we have hunted that part of the farm. We've hunted that part. That's the only part I've hunted.
Wow.
We sat there for like 30 straight days, I
No, we
swear.
did not.
It's like 20, 15.
She killed 2 deer there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's something to be said for that. But that's where the fat buck is living, is right where Jordan spent the 2022 season. We're going to have a little bit of a homecoming to go back to that spot. Where that more non-typical buck is living is further out to the west even more. So it's a spot that we really haven't hunted hardly at all. So it'll be kind of fun to get in there. And there are a lot of deer there. I mean, that part of the farm has way more deer than the other part. I mean, there's probably at least twice as many on a density standpoint in that corner than there is anyplace else.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
It just must be closer to food. Maybe there's a neighbor in that direction that's got a higher density or something. I don't know. And I think that, I know there's more deer, in some areas that aren't maybe pastured as heavy. Some of our neighbors are, they're pretty heavy on cattle, and the deer just don't seem to do really well in those areas. And then there's certain pockets around us that, they don't have the cattle. So I do think that we're getting a little spill over there. But it'll be fun. It'll be a fun first week of the season. I guess that's kind of where we wrap it up. We're going to come back again, like I said, sometime here in the next 10 days with another episode with more specific details. But we thought it'd be fun just to, show you some of what we pulled off that third round of getting the cards, and talk about the basic plan. We're gonna keep the door open for the Jordan buck to step back in. We're gonna be really careful to give him plenty of room.
Leaving the lights on.
Leave the lights on, a little food sitting on the counter for him.
Always welcome.
Yep.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
And hopefully he will. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We'll see you right back here again soon for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always
Dream big.